To pursue science is not to disparage the things of the spirit. In fact, to pursue science rightly is to furnish the framework on which the spirit may rise.
Welcome to the Endless Frontiers, your home for all things science, fiction, and science fiction. I'm your host, Jed Morgan, and welcome into episode, 23 of the Write or Flight podcast. This should be the regular time slot for this podcast going forward. Monday night around 7 or 8 o'clock. That's what I'm hoping for. I want to get back to consistency because consistency on YouTube is very, very important. I knew it would take me a few weeks to figure out with my new job, my new schedule, everything like that, what made the most sense and what would work best. And I feel like this is a great meeting of the ways. I didn't want to do it on the weekend because I already have several streams on the weekend. Didn't want to do on a random night where someone else is streaming. Like Friday night, I already have other streams. I felt like Monday night, just pushing back for a few hours from the original start time was the best decision, and we'll see how it works. Of course, I'm open to suggestions if people think another night might work better, and we can update as we go along. But yes, as of right now, this is what you guys should expect going forward from the Write or Flight podcast. It's great to be back with a little bit more regularity. I miss these streams. I miss the chat Choose Your Own Adventure since I hadn't been able to do it the last couple weeks, and we're definitely bringing it back this week. I said that this would be the time slot going forward, but if Spectrum continues to act like this, I don't know how much longer I can have a YouTube channel, because I keep having them come out and they keep telling me I'm not a priority. That they're not going to do maintenance on my neighborhood until they feel like it. But yeah, I'm going to have to move or get Starlink. And Starlink is technically less data than I'm getting now. And I have to, I'm in a high use area, so I have to pay a $500 fine just to start an account with Starlink as it is right now. This is just untenable. I need to just get someone higher up at Spectrum. I pay them so much money, and they're just like, yeah, you're not a priority for us. Sometimes you work, maybe at like 1 in the afternoon, you work for about 20 minutes, and that's enough for us to say, you're not a big deal. You're not important to us. Can't believe this is the state of Spectrum here, because I had a little bit of issues back at the old house, but it was mainly at the end. The last few months I was living there, I had issues. But before that, Very, very rarely. I can think of only one other big example or a big moment where Spectrum caused a problem. Other than that, the 2, 3 years I lived in that house, totally fine. Totally fine. And like not even the normal Spectrum complaining that a lot of people do. But we're gonna press onward. We're doing good signal wise right now, so let's see how far we can get. Maybe it'll be cut short. But I do have, let me see, 3 topics. I'd say 3 light topics, maybe spread out into a little bit more. I could split them up, and then of course the chat choose your own adventure segment at the end. So let's dive into the first one while people start cycling in, and let's check in with how Artemis is doing. They've released to the public for free. And you know what the funny thing is? I haven't seen a single conspiracy theorist account that I normally get suggested on Twitter crying about this. They've been extraordinarily quiet about this, unlike how active they were during the whole Artemis mission, crying that it all looks fake, that it's a balloon going up there instead of a rocket, some really outlandish things. But now that the proof is here, thousands, 12,000 images are available of all shapes, sizes, angles, and just some incredible images. They're being extremely silent. And it's not just for these beautiful shots that you have here. They even have some iPhone camera video footage as well. This one looks like Christina recorded this with her cell phone. She's just looking out the window. This makes it feel like it's a commercial flight. This is something that you could see if travel to the moon was ever commercialized or made regular. This is what everyone's going to be doing out the window of the spacecraft along the way. And there are a lot of videos like this just from their iPhones. I think it's incredible. These are not debunkable. They always try, the flat earthers always try with onesie twosie images that are released, but how can you possibly refute 12,000 images made available to the public so soon? They didn't fake these, they didn't AI all these up in time. They just had to process this data. It's 12,000 files. That takes some time to process. That's why we haven't gotten them until now. But we have them now. The truth is in, and I feel bad for Hank Green. I highlighted him on the last Rider Flight podcast. He put together this incredible timeline of released NASA photos with their metadata available, the time that they were taken, the camera settings, where the spacecraft was when that shot was taken, everything like that. And now he has 12,000 more photos to deal with. I don't think he's going to incorporate them. That's just way too much data, and he's already got such a beautiful timeline of the popular images, the ones that have been released before now. I do feel bad for him if he does try to do so. But I just wanted to highlight this, that these images are available to the public. They're all available at this website here. NASA's been tweeting them out nonstop, getting the link into everybody's hands so that they can see this incredible journey every step of the way as these astronauts went farther from Earth than anyone ever has before. Yeah, that was going to be a quick one. I knew that was only going to take a couple minutes. It's so great to see 12,000 images. That's incredible that they have so many available, and they made them available to the public. They don't need to do that. They could just keep piecemealing it out, the pretty ones that'll do good in the public eye and stuff like that. But no, they want the data in the people's hands, and I respect that so much. I really appreciate them doing that, and I absolutely love how I haven't seen any of the normal conspiracy theorists coming out to cry about it. Because during Artemis, my Twitter feed was almost exclusively conspiracy theorists. It was horrible. I wasn't interacting with them. I wasn't searching for them. But Twitter's like, this is what you want. We know it is. We know this is what you want. Now, completely silent. I actually, before this stream, actively tried to look up any of these conspiracy theorist accounts to see if they had been talking about these 12,000 images, and not a whole lot of things came up. An account that I didn't recognize did say, yes, the photos are released. I advise you not to look at them. So I think he might know that these photos are absolutely real and undebunkable. So he's just telling his sheep to don't look at the proof. You might not be a flat earther anymore. Stay away from it. That's about the extent of what I saw, and I thought that one was absolutely hilarious. Welcome in, Dr. Rachel. Spectrum absolutely sucks. It does. I know it dipped out there for a little bit during that segment. I really don't know what to do. They've been out here multiple times, and every time they say, you're not a priority, we don't care, because it sometimes maybe works. Well, apparently I have to just stop working 100% for them to make me a priority, and I can't fake that. I don't know. And they have to fix the whole neighborhood. So it's not just a me problem, it's a neighborhood problem. I think that would make it a high priority if a whole neighborhood is having these consistent issues. I'm the main one noticing them because it's mostly with upload speed, and I'm sure most people in my neighborhood aren't streamers, so they're not noticing it as much as I am. But that's still a whole neighborhood. That should rank higher than one person potentially having some intermittent connectivity. Spectrum is on the spectrum. There's a reason they have that name. That's all we'll say. Rachel, when Spectrum finally gets taken to court for providing shit service to the wrong people, I will be there with popcorn and a wide smile. Wouldn't it be nice if they had a class action lawsuit someday? I'd try to participate in that. It probably wouldn't go anywhere, because I don't know how you would enforce something that they done incorrectly. But Dash, if AI can't insert 12,000 new images into his timeline, what is it good for? AI helped extract the metadata and get it organized for him, but he still had to do a lot of that by hand by himself. It was an astronomical project. See what I did there? So I don't even know if AI would quite be enough to deal with 12,000. Most AIs can't deal with that many files to begin with. Like, there's this AI service that was that's been implemented at where I work now, recently implemented, and they were bragging about, hey, it can deal with the first 4 megabytes of a file. Isn't that so cool? 4 whole megabytes it can search through to get the data you want it, so it can search through a bunch of different files up to 4 megabytes of depth. Well, what happens if I have a 1 gig file or something like that? Oh, the everything after 4 megabytes will be invisible to it. Great. Thank you. That's absolutely a useful service. There's only a handful of things it can do, but it's still an AI service that we have. I think AI is being dove into far too much for what it currently can do. And that's and the fear angle is also way higher than it should be. AI isn't as smart as people think it is. Both the people who love it and the people who hate it. It's prone to hallucinating constantly. There are some advanced models that are, beyond what I'm saying, but the average thing that you're going to have access to, your Geminis, your chat box, your Claudes, a lot of those are just so dumb. They're like autistic 5-year-olds. That's what I'd say AI is. Yeah, it can look up a lot of numbers really, really quickly, but it can't process those yet. They're not ready yet. So someday AI might be something we need to be afraid of. It might be something that should be integrated into every aspect of our lives, but we're not there yet. And a lot of the AI isn't actually AI. It's just branded as that because that's a current fad. AI has just been blown out of proportion by a lot of people. Dash, do you use the Spectrum provided fiber router? There are alternatives that transparently spoof the MAC address. We do use the Spectrum provided fiber router. I haven't looked into any alternates because they stole my last one. At my old house, I had my own router that I was using, one that I purchased myself that I was happy with, and it worked for years. It was great, no issues. And then there started to be a little issue, so I called them in, and they straight up stole that old router and replaced it with one of theirs. I'm not kidding. And I tried to ask about it, and they're like, "Oh, do you have any proof?" No. Then there's nothing we can do for you. He was sitting on it too. He stood it up my router on its end and was sitting on it for a few hours, and then he stole it. I'm sure it was an accident. I do think it was an accident, but yeah, that's the last time I had one that I purchased for myself. But I should look more into those. Maybe those could help. But with the issues being neighborhood wide, I don't know if those would work. But having something that spoofs the MAC address would be probably good for security purposes. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want Spectrum anymore. That might be something we're not going to live here forever. This might be just a year for us because it's farther away from my new job than we'd hoped it would be. Because I didn't know that I'd be getting this job when we moved into this house. So we do plan to move probably next year sometime. Commute's fine for right now though. And when we move, I think the internet will be a top priority. Like we're gonna check commutes to her work, my work, check the HOA. That's a big priority for me. How much up their own assholes are they? What are they sniffing? And then probably internet. Really, I think that might be the next one. School districts, maybe, but I've never been one to ask the neighbors about stuff before I, put in an offer at some place, but I might wander that neighborhood and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about moving into the neighborhood. Do you guys use internet for things besides streaming services and stuff like that?" Yes. Great. Is it any good? Anything but Spectrum. Really, I want to find like a frontier neighborhood or a quantum fiber neighborhood or do something separate. Something not Spectrum. And I had trouble with Cox back in Arizona, so I wouldn't love Cox or CenturyLink or any of those normal ones. But Quantum Fiber and Frontier Fiber, I've heard nothing but good things about. So that might be a pretty high priority for me at the next house that we're looking at. And I'm also hoping to have enough money to pay people to move because I hate moving. Everybody does, but by that point, I'm hoping to have another option. It'd be nice. It would be nice. We can hit the next topic. Absolutely. We can do the next one. Not seeing any new chat. So let's dive into the next topic, which is pure astronomy. In this era of advanced technology, of orbiting telescopes, we're coming to understand our universe more than we ever had before. The James Webb Space Telescope is teaching us so much about our galaxy and the galaxies beyond. Hubble is still working hard to map out the stars and the visible light spectrums primarily, and its replacement, Roman, is well on the way. There's also a Habitable Worlds telescope getting ready to be launched in the next decade or two. It's one of the most exciting times to be an astronomer because we're no longer limited by the Earth itself. We don't have to wait for observatories to come into alignment with something. Or, hey, I want to look at the northern hemisphere sky, but my observatory is only in the southern hemisphere. What are we going to do? Contact somebody else? Now we have all these orbital telescopes and we're learning so much and it's all so incredible. I can't imagine living in a time where so much knowledge wasn't at my fingertips. Like this, for example, astronomers believe they've detected an atmosphere around a tiny icy world beyond Pluto. There are several dwarf planets that have some semblance of an atmosphere, Pluto and Eros being chief among them, and some moons do. Temporarily, there are also some asteroids, I believe, that have been spotted with atmospheres. Sometimes these are the result of collisions, comets spraying a bunch of chemicals into the air, getting caught in a orbit, because that's kind of what it is for the higher molecules and whatnot. And then they're stripped away by the solar radiation, other gravity sources, and stuff like that. So it can be temporary. Even Pluto's atmosphere kind of comes and goes. But to find a world beyond Pluto in the Kuiper Belt with an atmosphere is a first of its kind, and it's really interesting. Let's dive into the specifics. A new study suggests that a tiny icy world beyond Pluto harbors a thin, delicate atmosphere that may have been created by volcanic eruptions or a comet strike. Yes, volcanic eruptions can also cause mild atmospheres, similar to how Europa has an atmosphere. It's from those water plumes. I believe Io also has one from its volcanic activity. So there are a few ways that can make temporary atmospheres. So it could absolutely be volcanic or comet. For a world this small, though, to have volcanic eruptions is very strange. It's far too small to have a molten core. It's not likely to have a geologically active surface, but if it does, that could teach us a lot about protoplanets and little asteroid like mini worlds, as they're called later on in this article, that could have clumped together to make the world, the Earth, and other planets in our solar system. If this is true, we could learn so much about our own past. Just 300 miles, 500 kilometers, or so across, this mini Pluto is thought to be the solar system's smallest object, yet with a clearly detected global atmosphere bound by gravity, said lead researcher Ko Amatsu of the National Astronomical Observatory of Japan. I apologize if I didn't pronounce that name correctly, but that is such a tiny, tiny world. That's smaller than Australia, I think. This is such a small world to have an atmosphere. That's why they are leaning towards volcanic eruptions or a comet strike rather than a persistent atmosphere, and it's most likely going to go away. But to find such a little world like this, anywhere there's an atmosphere, there's a possibility for life. I'm not saying that this place has life, there's no evidence to that whatsoever. But if an atmosphere is capable on a world this small, there might be a mini world out there somewhere out in the cosmos that has life. What would life look like on a world with such little gravity? That is a fraction of Earth's gravity, yet somehow it has at least a temporary atmosphere. It's absolutely fascinating. This is an amazing development, but it sorely needs independent verification. Yes, whenever scientists call for peer review, that's when I know they are actually dedicated to science. The implications are profound if verified, said Southwest Research Institute's Alan Stern, the lead scientist behind NASA's New Horizons mission to Pluto and beyond. He was not involved in the study. I talked about Alan Stern a lot in my Why Pluto is a Planet video. That's having a bit of an uptick in viewership, with Jared Isaacman, the administrator of NASA, saying that he is on the side of Pluto becoming a planet again. So I'm familiar with Alan Stern's work. At the time of the study, it was more than 3.4 billion miles away, farther than even Pluto, the only other object in the Kuiper Belt with an observed atmosphere. It's 50 to 100 times thinner than even Pluto's tenuous atmosphere. Like I said, Pluto's atmosphere comes and goes in waves. It's very delicate. To be 50 to 100 times thinner than that, it's a miracle we were able to detect that. But that's how incredible our current telescopes are. They talk about hopefully getting James Webb to point at it, and then we'll be able to learn a lot more from it. That is why future monitoring is so important, he said. If the atmosphere fades over the next several years, that would support an impact origin like a comet. If it persists or varies seasonally, that could point more toward ongoing internal gas supply from ice volcanoes. It's incredible what the universe comes up with. It's a magical and ever surprising place, and it's such an exciting time to be into astronomy. Coming off of the back of this, James Webb has already been pointing at other worlds from beyond our solar system to learn more about exoplanets. It's even looked at some exomoons thanks to the work of Dr. David Kipping of the Cool World podcast and I believe he's a professor at Columbia. So James Webb is trying to learn more and more about planets as well. So maybe they'll be able to schedule some time with the James Webb Space Telescope to look at this little mini world beyond Pluto. James Webb Space Telescope directly studies an exoplanet surface. For the first time, we see a dark, hot, barren rock. Most of the studies done by James Webb of exoplanets focus on the atmosphere, finding out what it's made of, stuff like that. There's a lot of great techniques to make that possible, but this one was specifically focused on what the crust was made out of. Was it silicate like Earth or Mars? Was it balsamic or bacillus? I can't remember. Something like that. The James Webb Space Telescope's exoplanet subject, LHS 3844b, is a so-called super-Earth, about 30% larger than our planet and located nearly 50 light years away. We're studying the surface of planets 50 light years away. That's insane to think about. It's going to take us, millennia to travel that far. But the fact that we're able to see something as dark and small as an exoplanet, only 30% larger than the Earth, is a testament to how incredible the James Webb Space Telescope is. We don't appreciate it enough. No one talks about it. Yes, the Hubble is an impressive piece of machinery, and most people are familiar with it. It deserves its place in the society's zeitgeist that it has. But James Webb has done more, probably, for our understanding of the universe, and yet most people don't even know it exists, which is very disappointing to see the state of astronomy in our modern world. Hopefully, Artemis is able to help change that a little bit, but that's the world we live in. Unlike most exoplanet studies, which focus on atmospheres, astronomers analyzed heat emitted from this planet's surface. The findings reveal a dark, airless world that may resemble Mercury. That's a very large Mercury-like world. Scientists say this kind of direct interpretation of a distant planet's geology marks the next step in unveiling their nature. The more exoplanets we study, the more that we'll learn about the Earth's past and what lies out there. It's a study like this that's going to find alien life. I vehemently believe that alien life is real. It's never visited Earth, in my opinion, and it's probably not going to be found anytime soon in a study like this. But this is how it happens. This is how we find a world that we can visit someday once we have the capability to travel beyond our solar system. This work cannot be halted. This work holds so much potential for science and the future of humanity. We need to be excited about this. We need to learn about this. We need to share this information with the people that we love in our lives, because the public being interested in astronomy keeps astronomy viable. Otherwise, it could be dismissed, funding for it could dry up, and our understanding of the universe could be dramatically impacted as a result. That went on for quite a bit longer than I expected it to. Dash said, how dare they call it a tiny ice world beyond Pluto until Pluto's dignity is restored? Yeah. I mean, they did just say that it's beyond Pluto, so that isn't necessarily a dig at Pluto. But yeah, fuck it. Don't mention Pluto unless you're gonna give it the credit it deserves. Come on. You gotta respect the name. You gotta respect Pluto. I hope Pluto gets restored someday. It makes sense. It's not just emotional for me. Yeah, it started out that way, of course. I remember how much people were upset by Pluto getting declassified. Like I mentioned, I don't remember the declassification. I was only 6 or 7 when it happened, so I don't really remember it. But the reaction to it was so strong that I felt it. So I started this whole thing with Pluto as an emotional exercise of saying, yeah, Pluto deserves it. I miss Pluto, stuff like that. But in doing the research, learning the history, learning the definitions, learning why the IAU declassified it, it becomes increasingly asinine and illogical that it was declassified. The reasons for it don't make sense. The qualifications that they created don't make sense. And rationally, Pluto should be a planet. Dwarf planets, I think, should be a classification of planets. But they're not seen as that. If gas giants, what does Jupiter and Venus, or that might not be a good example, Jupiter and Mercury have in common? They're startlingly different. They are very different worlds. How are they in the same category or the same classification, but Pluto, which is a lot like Mercury, isn't? So it started emotional, and it still is to a certain extent, but I feel like I have a very rational and logical argument to back up those feelings. And I think I've been a little bit quiet this whole stream because StreamYards, when I'm on Out of the Renaissance Nerd streams, no matter what settings I check, StreamYards alone, only StreamYards does this, messes with my mic volume. It's always like, hey, you want to go down to 20% volume on your mic? That's what it tries to do, 20% volume. It's like, no. What I do is, around 80 to 90%. It's dumb. StreamYards has a lot of issues. I know people make fun of Restream, but I found Restream to be way more reliable than StreamYards. Dash, too many astronomers wanted to feel important. They couldn't find new planets, so they tried to reclassify the old ones. I mean, they were worried about finding other planets. The whole thing was, hey, the Kuiper Belt's big. What if we found 150 other worlds out there, planets out there? Kids would have to memorize all that. It's like, oh, we don't want that. We don't want to worry about studying any other planets, so let's reclassify the old ones. So yeah, I think you're right to a certain extent. They wanted to feel important, like they'd affected the scientific discourse. I wonder how many of them actually have done anything important. I'm sure some of them have. I didn't mean to be too dismissive with that comment, but yeah, and they just didn't want to worry about more planets, and that's just a terrible reason. That's not a reason to do science. The science is the science, whether or not you like it or not. Imagine if the astronomers and astrophysicists that were figuring out how many stars there were in the galaxy or the universe were like, that's a really big number. Why is that number so big? Let's pretend that they're not stars if they're too far away or the wrong size. That way we don't have to count as many of them. That'd be insane. Of course a red giant and a red dwarf are both stars or whatnot. So, yeah, that would have been asinine for them to do just because they didn't want to count the billions upon billions of stars available. And that's essentially the reason they declassified Pluto, is they were worried about some extra planets. It doesn't make any sense. Legatus, you're still waiting for Planet X? I've heard a lot of things about Planet X, and recently at least, and I didn't know it was really a thing. But yeah, there was a time where people thought that there was another world beyond Pluto, and that's kind of how we found Pluto. Is I think it's Uranus's orbit is slightly affected by Pluto, so we knew something was out there. I think so. No, that's how we discovered Uranus compared to Neptune. But yeah, there was some evidence for Planet X, but it was later reclassified, or like the data was re-examined, and a different cause made the most sense. So Planet X isn't currently something that they're looking for or believe exists, but I think there are more planets, more dwarf planets, certainly out in the Kuiper Belt and beyond. I don't think there's anything big out there, but I would be fairly certain to say that Planet X does exist in some shape or form out there in the Kuiper Belt. And who knows what's in the Oort cloud? You think the Kuiper Belt or the asteroid belt outside of Mars is dense and hard to study? The Oort cloud is so far away, and it's actually a bubble, so we have to worry about actual three-dimensional space to map out everything in the Oort cloud. Now, there's probably not any planets outside of our orbital plane, but something could hide out in our orbital plane out in the Oort cloud. You never know what's out there. And then the heliosphere. Not a whole lot of people realize this, but the heliosphere, which I think makes the most sense to be the division of our solar system, is about a light year from the sun, or a light year across, and that's an insane distance. I think it's a light year from the sun, so a light year in radius. A light year in radius is our solar system. That's massive. And we're only, single AU, astronomical union, from the sun, and a light year is... I need to look this up. How many AUs to a light year? It's going to be a lot. How many AUs in a light year? 63,241. 63,000 astronomical units. So the Earth, the edge of the heliosphere, the edge of our solar system, is 63,241 times the distance from the sun than we are. It's a massive solar system, and then the idea of going through the interstellar medium makes interstellar travel very daunting. But there's so much to be discovered. Let me see. How many AUs is Pluto? That's my point in all this. Is Pluto from the sun to be 8? Oh, 40. Fuck. Oh yeah, I was thinking of I think Saturn's 8. But yeah, it's between 30 and 50 AUs from its perhelion to its aphelion. So Pluto is still only 50 AUs out. So 50 minus 63,200 roughly. There's no telling what's out there in that much space. 63,000 AUs, you could hide solar systems worth of planets in there. It's unlikely that there are, because we would have seen anything big like Jupiter by this point, but that's still plenty of space to hide a planet X. I think it's pretty reasonable to think a planet X exists. You want the Nokian technology. I don't think there's any technology on Planet X, but the idea of another world out there beyond Pluto is more than viable at this point. Dash, the new tiny planet must be asteroid B612 from the old cartoon, The Adventures of Little Princess. Maybe. You never know what inspirations comes from. All right, I have one other tiny topic, and then we can dive into a chat, choose your own adventures. I couldn't go today without mentioning Disney's Star Wars Day. May the 4th, Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you is today, the Disney version of Star Wars Day, even though myself and a lot of people like me prefer to celebrate on May 25th, the original Star Wars Day. Most of the world celebrates May the 4th these days, so there's no better time to talk about Star Wars. Admittedly, I'm not a massive Star Wars fan, I never really have been, but that original trilogy of space fantasy films are incredible. The character work, the world building, few creators match George Lucas when it comes to the world building that he's capable of. Just yesterday on the Roundtable stream on the Renaissance Nerds channel, Dre and I just lost it talking about Return of the Jedi, getting so excited talking about the Luke versus Vader confrontation on Endor, then the lightsaber battle. There's so much great character work there, and I'm moved by that sequence. Yes, the Ewoks are dumb in Return of the Jedi, yet it's still an incredible film that has aged so well. Despite that, so many people act as if The Last Jedi and a lot of things that Disney Star Wars has done are the best things in Star Wars since Empire Strikes Back, acting like Return of the Jedi is some problem that Disney has outshined, which is just an asinine comment. However, it is interesting to know, apparently on Disney Plus, almost exclusively, a little on Hulu as you can see here, the Star Wars brand has been streamed 33 billion minutes, according to the Nelsons. And yes, that is across the entire breadth of Disney Plus and Hulu. So since 2019, Star Wars have been streamed 33 billion minutes as a franchise. That's very impressive. I can't discount that. Even when it's on a streaming service like Disney Plus, it cannot be ignored. And so they have the top 10 most streamed Star Wars titles as of May 4th, 2025. It starts out with, at number 10, Star Wars The Clone Wars. I was a fan of Star Wars The Clone Wars for a very long time. I tried to rewatch it a year or two ago and just couldn't get into it. But growing up as a late teenager, I really loved The Clone Wars. So I'm not surprised whatsoever that it's pretty high up here, even with the mixed bag that is season 7. I think it deserves to be here in the top 10. The thing that surprises me most about this list is Star Wars Tales of the Underworld is number 9. I didn't know this show existed. I knew that there were the Tales of the Jedi and Tales of the Sith, and there were a few other animated projects like that, but I'd never heard of this one. And it only having 6 episodes compared to Clone Wars' 132 seems weird to me. I'm not going to discount it and say that it doesn't actually have that many million minutes watched, but it's a little weird to me. It is a little weird. Of course, Rogue One is number 8. It is the most successful and I think well-liked Disney Star Wars film, so I have no surprise in me seeing it here on this list. Something that we talked about on Roundtable yesterday as well. I think Solo is actually a less damaging movie than Rogue One. Dre really hates Rogue One, but it's well-liked overall, I think. And then most of the rest of these are George Lucas Star Wars films. We've got Return of the Jedi, way too low, criminally underrated on this list at number 7. Attack of the Clones, number 6. I think Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace are the 2 worst Star Wars films. And I mean George Lucas Star Wars films. But it needs to be there. It is George Lucas Star Wars. Then Revenge of the Sith. I can't believe it's not higher than Phantom Menace at number 5. Empire Strikes Back, of course, near the top at number 4. Phantom Menace at 3. And Star Wars A New Hope. Yes, of course, Andor is pretty high up there. A successful television show that came out recently with 18 episodes. It makes sense why it's high up there. I'm not going to knock that. It is, and it's semi-well popular. It's well enough popular as far as Disney Star Wars goes. So I'm not surprised it's there. But the thing that isn't on this list are the sequel films. There's no Force Awakens, there's no Last Jedi, there's no Rise of Skywalker anywhere to be seen on this list. It is the original trilogy and the prequels dominating this list. So real Star Wars, as Adam likes to point out, is alive and well. I hope more people are getting physical media of those movies than watching on Disney Plus, but sometimes it's more convenient, and I won't knock that, but it is still where the popularity is. It's still where the love is. That's why Galaxy's Edge in California is moving back to featuring original characters, original trilogy characters, rather than sequels, because they've realized the sequels are not viable. Now, I don't necessarily ascribe to the new rumor that's out that Disney is actively trying to retcon the sequels out of existence, but maybe they are. That would be the smart thing to do at this point. So I just wanted to say, Happy May the 4th if you celebrate it. Happy May for those who don't. And looking forward to May 25th, Real Star Wars Day, Adam's Day of Doom, where we can make fun in full parody, full satire of the Disney Star Wars fans. But through it all, remember, real Star Wars, George Lucas Star Wars, is always there waiting for you to welcome you home. I need to get back into Star Wars. I need to watch the original trilogy. I don't really want to watch the prequels. Revenge of the Sith I can enjoy, but the other 2 I really struggle with. I just want to watch the original trilogy. I'm feeling the itch. I haven't had that itch in a very long time, but that discussion with Dre about Return of the Jedi was enough to ignite a little bit of Star Wars interest back in me again. Legata says, May the Force use the SWATs. Oh yeah, there's new Spaceballs movies coming out. I don't trust them to make fun of the sequels as much as they should. Legatus, I would not put Andor ahead of any George movies. Oh yeah, it doesn't deserve quality-wise. I'm sorry, that's not what I meant. I just meant it's a new television show. Television show has way more hours in it, so it compounds. So minutes watched, it's like viewership times runtime. It's a weird metric, but the fact that it's a 2-season television show gives it a massive edge over those movies on the Nielsen's. If we were looking at straight viewership to viewership, like this account watched this episode or this season versus watched this movie, the viewership would come out in favor of the George Lucas ones, I think. I absolutely think that. But with the way that metric works, with it being a new semi-popular TV show, I'm not surprised that it's higher on the Nelsons. It's disappointing, but that's just the way it is. Let me guess. When making this list, the holiday special still ranks above the Disney's horrible fan fiction movies. I don't know if the holiday special is on Disney Plus. It should be. I'd put it on there. You could only run away from that for a while. It's a meme now. People would watch it to make fun of it. You should embrace that. But if it were on there, I'm sure it would be higher than some Disney Plus content, Star Wars content. You notice The Mandalorian wasn't on there. I also saw a breakdown based on demographic, what, the most popular television shows were. And apparently Gen Alpha really liked Mandalorian, or, they were the biggest demographics to watch The Mandalorian, or that was the biggest show in that demographic that was watched. And then most of the middle ones were Andor, and then 65 plus was The Mandalorian again. No Acolyte anywhere to be found. Dash, Andor needs to be recut into an hour and a half movie, a heist movie, a prison break movie, and a spy movie. It doesn't need seasons. Yeah, you could make a couple movies easily, I'm sure. I haven't seen it, so I can't be sure. I have zero interest in new Star Wars, not even enough to hate on it or review it or anything like that. I really couldn't care. Like, everyone who was saying, Andor's so amazing, you need to check it out. I felt nothing. I felt absolutely nothing. They could have, been someone I trust. Like, even Adam. Let's say I do trust Adam on Star Wars. Even if he had come to me and said, Jed, Andor is the best Star Wars since Return of the Jedi. Because fuck this whole best since Empire Strikes Back. Return of the Jedi is way up there. But even if he had come to me and said that, I probably still wouldn't watch it. I just don't care. Legatus also stated the original theatrical cuts of his movies no longer exist, being destroyed. Yet Disney is re-releasing them. I mean, he's wrong. There are people who have the theatrical cuts. Like, he sold the theatrical cuts in the early 2000s. There are home media versions of the original cuts. Like Adam, he has a 2-pack DVD set for each of the movies that says theatrical cut, special, or the first special edition. So George, we obviously love George, but he does say a lot of wrong things, like factually wrong things a lot. He contradicts himself. You gotta take what he says with a grain of salt. And especially when it comes to canon, nothing's canon until he publishes it. Just because he says something offhand, he's prone to correcting that or changing his mind. But yeah, the original theatrical cuts, Adam owns them. So yeah, Disney is able to re-release them. I don't know why he said that. Maybe he meant the film reels. I could believe that. The original film reels or stuff like that have been destroyed, no longer exist. 100% believe that. But there are copies. Did he destroy the master films? That's what I was saying. If he destroyed the original master reels, absolutely believe that, no question. But there are copies of them out there that Disney is more than capable of re-releasing them. Well, I think it's time for Chat Choose Your Own Adventure right after a quick word from the sponsor of today's stream, Plotter. This video is sponsored by Plotter. Every writer knows the drill. Staring at a blank page, characters ghosting you mid-plot, timelines unraveling like a bad sweater. That endless loop of what happens next, sucking the joy out of your story. I lived it. Outlines and chaos, competing storylines driving me mad. For the longest time, my notes were thick, blocked-out paragraphs, and my outlines were never-ending bullet points that stretched for more pages than my first drafts. Then I found Plotter, my plotting lifeline. Visual timelines that snap into place, drag-and-drop scenes to tame the wildest arcs, character sheets that keep everyone on track. It turned my latest novel, a 200,000-word juggernaut with multiple character perspectives and solar systems worth of lore, into an easy-to-understand, trackable project, complete with a series bible, multi-track storylines, and lore documents that make world-building a breeze. And check out their latest feature, a seamless note-taking system for all those story and character ideas that don't have a home yet. Available for free to all users of the Plotter app. For pro users, your notes and files will automatically sync across devices with cloud storage.
If you're tired of the plot purgatory, use my link or scan the QR code to get Plotter for life with a single payment of $150. Your epic won't write itself, but with Plotter it'll flow like never before. Link in the description. Let Plotter help you conquer your stories.
Welcome to the Chat Choose Your Own Adventure segment of this stream, where you, the chat, with a combination of dice rolls and super chat, help me craft out the outline to short stories. If those super chats get to a high enough threshold of $100, I will schedule a separate stream where I will actually start to write out this short story. Won't finish it in that stream most likely, but then I will finish it at some point, probably in the next couple days after that, and then get it up for members of the YouTube channel, and my incredible wife, Rachel, will draw some exclusive artwork for those short stories. We have, I think, 5 short stories and pieces of artwork available to members right now. So if any of you are interested in checking that out, just become a member of the Endless Frontiers on YouTube to check that out. As always, we have genre, science fiction, fantasy, mystery, thriller, horror, romance, parody, and chat choice. For lead character, we have father, gynecologist, mental patient, blacksmith, I think flat earther. Did we do flat earther already? I don't think we did do flat earther. With the penguins, we did the flat earth penguin, or the ants. I didn't cross it off because we got all those prompts from Ariel's super chat from the week before, so we gotta add something completely random in here. I'm gonna put lawyer. No reason for that. Lawyer. And then, of course, a chat choice. For all the chat choices, those are free spaces where just normal chats can help affect that and make those decisions. For setting, we have present day, past, future, non-human world, alternate universe, and chat choice. For theme or style, we have maturing, hope, teen drama, crossroads. A lot of these are like maturing teen themes, acceptance, and chat choice. For wildcard, we have rocket, wings, unicorn, nachos, fedora, and chat choice. I'll roll out a dice to figure out which of each of these sections, but if you want to override any dice roll, high super chat starting at $1 can make the dice roll be whatever you want it to be. Doesn't have to be limited to what is on this list here. It can be literally anything you want it to be. Then after the dice rolling section, when we're actually outlining out the story, high super chat starting at $5 can introduce a twist at any point. This could be as weird and wacky as you want, because the goal is you guys throw curves of balls at me, but I endeavor to try to make it, the story, make as much sense as possible. That is the goal that I strive for. I don't always make it because of how weird everything is, but that is the goal. So those twists, they could be literally anything that you want it to be. Biggles Mets once came in here with a twist that was, hey, have a dog girl show up. And I had to figure it out. And I made it work, and it actually, I think, improved that story. So, twists at any point, $5 or more during the outlining section. But let's choose the genre here. Once again, science fiction, fantasy, mystery, thriller, horror, romance, parody, or chat choice. 5. Okay, we've got parody again. No idea what that's going to look like yet, but we'll see. For lead character, we have father, gynecologist, mental patient, blacksmith, lawyer, or chat choice. Another 5, and it's going to be a lawyer. Okay. Thinking of different law shows that I know well enough. 3, okay. A parody about a lawyer in the future. This is going to be a boring-ass story. For theme or style, we have maturing, hope, teen drama, crossroads, acceptance, or chat choice. 4. Crossroads. Okay. And then wild card. We have rocket, wings, unicorn, nachos, fedora, or chat choice. Unicorn. I have no idea what this is gonna be. Alright, so it's a parody. Alright, parody about a lawyer. In the future. And there's a theme of crossroads. Oh, and then a unicorn. It's the wild card. A unicorn has to show up at some point. Let's see, what lawyer shows do I know? I've never seen Suits. I've seen some of Jag, but it's been in so long that I wouldn't consider that to be reliable. I watch more cop shows, like procedural cop shows, like NCIS. Love NCIS. And then I guess Lucifer qualifies as that, but lawyer shows, Bull is really the only one. Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul. I haven't seen Better Call Saul. I have seen Breaking Bad once. Better Call Saul is already a bit of a parody from what I understand. Never seen The Lincoln Lawyer. Yeah, Bull is really the only lawyer show. And he's not even a lawyer. He's just hires lawyers and works with lawyers. I should probably watch some law shows. That would make a lot of sense for me to do. Alright. But parody, it could just be a future parody of a law show. Don't know how the unicorn's gonna come in. How am I gonna get a unicorn to make sense in the future in a parody of well, it doesn't have to be a parody of a law show. The main character just needs to be a lawyer. If I knew anything about... I guess My Little Ponies aren't unicorns. I was getting really excited. It's like, yeah, if I knew enough about My Little Pony, maybe I could do a parody of that. But I just realized ponies and unicorns aren't the same thing. Apparently, I needed to think about that to make sure I knew that unicorns and ponies were the same thing. That tells you how much I think about unicorns. Yeah, unicorns in The Witcher are what I think about more than anything. And the unicorns are hardly in those stories. Dash, like the Tom Cruise movie Legend, somebody touches a unicorn and they're liable for losing its horn. They're sued for taking a unicorn horn? You know what? Maybe. Yeah, the lawyer is, it doesn't have to be sci-fi. Future doesn't mean sci-fi. I need to usually actively think about that. But I'm liking where you're going with that, Dash. The unicorn is the subject, or at least the instigation of a trial. Since it's the future, it would be genetic cross between a horse and a narwhal. Or a rhino. Ooh, I would go in a narwhal. I would go with the narwhal for a mythological reference, because in Greek mythology, horses came from the sea. They're actually created by Poseidon. They're connected with the ocean. So yeah, it's in the future. There's this genetic cross between a horse and a narwhal that happened. I can make it on a... I don't need to make it on a different world or anything like that. It's just set in the future where this genetic technology exists. So maybe some mad scientist created it, but then it turned out to look like a normal unicorn, like from myth, and people fell in love with these creatures too much. So there was a unicorn preserve, and Narwhals literally have unicorn horn. Yeah, those are really the long and thin, but just that reference, the mythological reference, I really like. But yeah, unicorn preserve. Okay, so in the future, narwhals and horses were crossbred or genetically engineered to have unicorn offspring or whatever, because some dude was weird. And then people realized, hey, those are unicorns, those are pretty. Put them in a reserve. So there's a special unicorn reserve. And to make it a little bit more action-packed of a parody, it's horn poachers. I can't think of any lawyer poach parodies or anything like that. Like, it could just be like comedy. Yeah, it's hard to differentiate between parody and comedy sometimes. So I'm trying to figure out what the parody aspect of it will be. Because you could have it that the unicorn horns, when they're made into a powder or a paste, they're an ED medication. Or, I mean, the classic would be immortality. I could definitely see some justification for that. In some fantasy stories, unicorn horns could give immortality. So it's about taking down the poachers. Alright, I think we have a story. Alright, so I'm gonna go with Chapter 1, Introduction, Chapter 2, Discovery, or Investigation. So Discovery, Investigation, Confrontation. We can go with that. Perfect. Lawyer's first day as working at the Unicorn Preserve. A parody of Animal Expert show like Steve Irwin. I actually like that. I love Steve Irwin. Alright, we're gonna go with Steve Irwin. Doesn't know what the preserve is, shown unicorns. Shocked to find out they're real. 40 years before, some mad scientist tried to make narwhal whales and horses breed because he wanted to give his daughter a unicorn. They wouldn't breed, so he genetically engineered some. The govs of the world found out, were terrified by the prospect of hybrid monsters and were enthralled. Supposed to be a 4 by unicorns' beauty. Whole team of lawyers on staff to help keep this preserve a secret and destroy anyone who disturbed the unicorns or found out the truth. Yes, I know how to spell sometimes. Intimidation. Made in building is quitting to move somewhere else. Seasoned lawyer takes main lawyer character into intimidation debrief. Makes it clear she cannot violate her NDA with the preserve, or they'll take everything from her and ship her off to the Arctic. It's just a dramatic threat. Made crying. Yeah, he had no idea that part of his job would be intimidating. Lots of training on unicorn law. Getting bored. A strange training is on his calendar that no one has told him about. What is he called? What was Steve Irwin's show called? He wasn't called the Crocodile Hunter, because he obviously liked crocodiles and didn't hunt them. What was it called? Steve Irwin show. Okay, it was the Crocodile Hunter. I'm gonna call it the Unicorn Tamer. Called the Unicorn Tamer. Gets ready to leave, but asks his supervisor about the training. Supervisor smiles and says it's the best part of the job. They gotta know their clients, right? Unicorn Tamer. Steve Irwin type meets lawyer. So excited by the unicorns. Takes lawyer on safari to see the animals. Lots of animal reaction stuff. That should be more than enough. You've always got to have a scene like this. Come on, I've seen Jurassic Park. Catch a live birth. So beautiful and clean. It moves the lawyer. Silver blood. I'm not sure why a narwhal horse offspring would have silver blood, but I'm going for it. Driving back to the preserve buildings. Sees silver blood on the road. Find a dead unicorn with its horn stolen. Poachers have found them. What they always feared. Tracking. Irwin tracks the poachers, shows lawyer how he does it. Lawyer doesn't care that the work is dirty and long. He wants to punish anyone who would hurt a unicorn. Find the poachers, fight to get the horns back, manage to subdue the poachers with the unicorns that Irwin calls in to help. Fate worse than death. Irwin wants to murder the poachers. Tries to convince lawyer. No one knows what happens in the preserve. Lawyer tempted, but smiles. He's sure that he and his team can come up with a fate worse than death for these men. How's the Arctic sound? Irwin laughs and is grateful. He doesn't have to kill. Alright, I think that's a good little short story that we have there. So what we have is a lawyer who shows up for a new job, having no idea what it is, and it turns out it's a unicorn preserve. 40 years before, a mad scientist wanted to impress his daughter and give her a unicorn, so he tried to make a horse and narwhal fuck. Obviously, that didn't work, so he genetically engineered the first unicorns. When the governments of the world found out about this, they were horrified about the prospect of hybrid monsters being the next step, but they also fell in love with the beauty of the unicorns, so they set up this preserve and hired more lawyers than Jeff Bezos has to keep this preserve secret from the world and punish anyone who would think about disturbing its tranquility and solitude. So this lawyer starting to figure out how that all works. There's a maid who's quitting, who is threatened with being sent to the Arctic if she violates her NDA that she signed to work there. He has to go through some other training, including unicorn tamer. This Steve Irwin type is the expert on unicorns in this preserve. Very much like Steve Irwin, loves what he's seeing, is very excited about it. So he takes the lawyer on a safari so that he can learn more about his new clients. Along the way, there's several Steve Irwin like, "Oh crikey, isn't it beautiful?" and stuff like that. They even witness a live birth, and it's far more majestic than most animal births. However, on the way back from this live birth, they find silver blood in the road. A unicorn has been slain, its horn taken by poachers. The eventuality that they all feared had come. There were poachers in the preserve. So working together, Steve Irwin type and the lawyer hunt down these poachers, take them down with the help of some unicorns, because of course Steve Irwin can control unicorns. Of course Steve Irwin can. What are we talking about? This is Steve Irwin. They take him down, and Steve wants to kill them all. He really hates what these men are doing, but the lawyer has an idea. He's pretty sure that the might of his law staff will be able to come up with a fate worse than death for these men, potentially even sending them to the Arctic. That's the story we have right now. Any last minute super chats can affect that, but I think we're pretty well locked in with that story. What'd you guys think? I thought it was cool. I think it's a cute little story. Dash says, Jeff Bezos has enough lawyers. We don't know about his unicorn preserve. Exactly. See, you get it, Dash. Jeff Bezos has a lot of lawyers. You need that many to hide a unicorn preserve. So when you do the AI song, I'm expecting like a crying Jeff Bezos because he doesn't have a unicorn preserve or something like that. Of course, the Zuckerberg has a preserve of lizard people in his Hawaiian island bunker. Few things would surprise me these days. But that's the story. I think we're going to lock it in, and I'm happy with it. And with that, we come to the end of this episode of the Write or Flight podcast. I think we had some good discussions and a welcome return of the Chat Choose Your Own Adventure segment. That was a great little story to ease us back into it. And I'm excited to get back into the swing of things. This week coming up for me, I'm going to try to stream Crimson Desert when I can. I've come up to a roadblock where I can't really do anything else on my own until I progress the main story. So I am motivated to stream that. Especially also, I'm motivated because Lego Batman's coming out in a few weeks and I want to stream that. And then the James Bond game comes out the week after that. So I'm definitely motivated to try to stream some Crimson Desert. I might do it Wednesday night. I'm thinking Wednesday night. Normally Thursday will be my dedicated game stream night, a weeknight, but I have to do some traveling for work. Shocker, shocker. So I won't be home until pretty late. So probably won't do it Thursday night. And I'll try to stream on Saturday as well. Also on Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern, Saturday Night Drive-In returns as always with a new film. And this one, Adam and I both know that we love, so there won't be any discourse this time. It'll be just pure enjoyment. We both love this film, and what I'm talking about is Tom Cruise's Edge of Tomorrow. Should be a great time. I absolutely love that movie. Then next Monday, right back here for Write or Flight episode 24. And it should be pretty consistent around 7 or 8 p.m. going forward. Thank you all so much for watching, whether or not you watched on the YouTube side or the kick side, it's great to have you here as always, and I appreciate my lurkers. But for those who were chatting, Dash and Legatus, thank you for stopping by, and it's always great to hang out with you folks. That's all that I have for today. If you enjoyed this stream, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. The more support this channel gets, the closer we are to publishing the Endless Frontier novels. Until then, have a stellar day, and stay curious.